Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today will be a double feature as we showcase two action figures by McFarlane Toys. On our left, we have the DC Multiverse Green Arrow as he appears in the video game and comic book Injustice 2. And on the right, we have the DC Page Punchers, also by McFarlane Toys, and this also features Green Arrow from Injustice 2. The Page Punchers comes with a comic book, as you can see in the back. The figure on the left, the DC Multiverse, came out a few months ago, whereas the Green Arrow here on the right, this one was a recent release. As you can see, the figures are nearly identical, but there's some significant differences. The first thing you'll notice is that on the figure here, Green Arrow does not have a hat, whereas the Page Punchers, he has his hat right there. Another significant difference is that on the first release, you'll notice that he has additional daggers and harnesses on his legs, whereas the more recent release, the legs are bare without weaponry. Otherwise, the figures look to be almost near identical. They both feature bow and arrows. Here's the quiver with the arrows, and then here's his bow. And then on this figure, here are the arrows packaged separately. Here's the quiver, and then here's the bow. One thing I kind of noticed also is that the first release, I think it has a lighter shade of green in the recesses than this one does. But as you'll notice, the big difference is really the head sculpt. You know, the one on the right has the hat, whereas this one does not. Okay, so we're going to take a look at these action figures. And on the back, here you have the Fig Photography, Green Arrow, Injustice 2. Nice shot of Oliver Queen. And then over here, another shot of Oliver Queen and also the cover of the comic book. As I've pointed out in a previous video, you'll notice that the Page Punchers, on the front it says includes exclusive comic book, English language. But then on the back, you know, we have Espanol on the bottom, and I'm not 100% sure what this is here. Part of me wanted to say Portuguese, but I might be wrong on that. Alright, so let's get started and take these out and do a side-by-side comparison. Alright, so for the first release from the Multiverse line, in addition to the figure, you get the trading card and the display base, as you can see right there. As for the Page Punchers display base, trading card and also a comic. So a slightly, you know, better value in a sense that you're getting a little bit extra with the comic book. I want to say I think the Page Punchers might be priced a little higher than the Multiverse. I believe I believe this might be run a few dollars more, I think. All right, let's do a quick side-by-side comparison of the both figures. So as I've pointed out, the figure on the left, some areas, like the recessed areas, like over here and over here, they appear to be a lighter shade of green than what we're finding on the page punchers. The green here and here, it's not as vibrant, it's a little bit more drab. Also, you'll notice that Oliver Queen on this one has a much lighter colored mask as opposed to the figure over here. The mask is much darker. It shares the same color of green as the body armor. Also, I'm noticing that this figure here has green on the boots, whereas this one lacks that lighter green. It's just all green altogether. So yeah, there's some subtle differences in terms of the colors. This one here looks like it has a richer flesh tone. I'm not sure if my camera is capturing that. This one has a cleaner paint application on the chest. All the trim that's highlighted with gold and the green arrow logo, it's a little bit more crisp. Whereas here, the paint application's a little bit more sloppy. Now, I'm not sure if that's, you know, if that's the case with this action figure specifically, or if the entire run is kind of like that. But as you can see, the green arrow logo, it's a little bit sloppy here. Whereas here, the paint, the application looks like it was done a bit more carefully. The accessories appear to be the same. You know, the arrows, the bows look the same, the quivers look the same. The only thing difference is that the arrows are packaged inside of the quiver here, whereas they're a separate piece over here. Alright, so since both of these figures, for the most part, seem to be identical, in terms of the articulation, I think we'll just review, you know, one of these action figures. You know, I think it'll make my job a little bit more easier. But yeah, real quick, here's one last look at both of the figures side by side, just so we can kind of see the differences. Now, it's kind of a, if you had to choose between one, I think it's going to be a kind of a difficult decision. Because, you know, the first release, it looks a little bit more geared out. You know, this guy has the daggers and the straps on his legs, plus the boots are dual colored. But, you know, the big omission is the hat. If you're really fond of Green Arrow having his, you know, archer hat, like we see here, this might be the way to go. But at the same time, you feel like you might feel like you're being shortchanged just because of the lack of weaponry on the legs. If you have the money and you really want to make like the ultimate Green Arrow, it seems like your best solution would be to buy both figures and then just do a head swap. You know, swap this head onto this guy, and then this guy will be like, you know, ultimate Green Arrow, having all the accessories, you know, all the additional features. So, I mean, it's really up to you. If I had to choose between one or the other, I'm tempted to say I'd probably go with this guy on the right. Just because I'm very fond of the archer hat, and I think this, for me, completes the look more so than just having, you know, the extra daggers and straps on his leg. All right, let's take a look at his accessories. We have the quiver to hold the arrows, and here are the arrows. Excuse me. As you can see, the detailing, it's really well done. You have a nice texture. It surrounds the entirety of the accessory, even the bottom. Nice, spacious interior, so you can hold all the arrows, and they fit pretty well. In the event that you get two figures, it seems like there's actually enough room to like hold the additional arrows on this side. So if you want your green arrow to feel like he's going into combat, you know, with enough arrows in his stock, you know, feel free to fill this out. Also, you'll notice there is a peg on the back, and then he has a socket, so you can easily plug this in if need be. And that kind of completes that look. Here is his bow. Very simple design. It's not overly done. You know, it has the grip with the bandages around the handle. This piece here, it seems flexible enough. In like my history of collecting action figures, any like archer who comes with a bow, it seems like at some point in time this is gonna break. So I don't know how, you know, durable this plastic is or what the longevity of this is, but I have a feeling that if you're like a child, you know, you always have the tendency to want to stretch this out, and I think over time, you know, this could possibly snap. But for the most part, it's a somewhat pliable plastic. As you can see, it's not too soft, but it's just rigid enough. Now let's take a look at Green Arrow himself. I'm going to guess that the figure probably stands in at maybe 7 1/4, I think. I might be wrong, though. It stands in a little under 7 1/2. Let's take a look at the figure up close so we can see the sculpting and the detail. Really well done. The face mask looks nice. As you can see, the paint application isn't completely perfect on the mask, which is understandable. You know, they didn't capture the mask completely with the green on the face. I have a hard time telling if he's looking straight at us. He is. So one of the fortunate things with this figure is they got rid of that weird side eye. You know, the past year, a lot of McFarlane figures, the pupils of the eyes would be looking off to the corner, but this guy is really looking straight forward, which is nice. And which it makes sense because he is an archer, so. And then here's his cap with the arrow on it and the feather. Looks really nice. Really well done body armor. You have the logo. The abdomen plate. He kind of has like almost like a corset that runs down his sides. Nice texture on the pants. Again, like I stated earlier, you know, the first release had the straps and the daggers. This one opts out, so it's a somewhat more sleeker, cleaner look. And then here's the boots. The first release had additional paint on the inside of the boot right here. In terms of articulation, Green Arrow's head turns left and right. Does he look down? Looks down about there. Looks up, not all that much. His arms rotate, and which is really, really well done is that the shoulder piece here is attached to the upper arm, so it can rotate fully. You know, on some figures, you know, sometimes this piece is attached to the top of the shoulder, which hinders the arm movement, but not in this case. And then since this has like a much wider mouth towards the top of the shoulder plate, it allows you to open up the arm going out this far, which is nice. Bicep cut right there. double pinned elbows, standard McFarlane wrist articulation. What's even better is that the gauntlet covers up the ball joint, so it's not as unsightly as previous figures. He does not have a cut beneath the breast line, unfortunately, so there's no movement. For me, I kind of like that. It's a cleaner look. But if you're like more into posability and, you know, action figure photography, it might bother you that he doesn't swivel beneath the breast line. So does he crunch forward? Not that much. The body sleeve here seems to cover up everything and kind of, you know, prevents that. Doesn't want to arch back either, but he does have a waist swivel. He kicks out about that much. Kicks out to the side, almost near splits. Double pinned knees, standard ankle articulation, and toe articulation. So, I mean, it seems like there's some compromises here. You know, if you're really big on, like, having the ab crunch and then the additional swivel beneath the breast line, that might bother you. But for me, I don't mind it so much because for me, I like it. I like the fact that it creates a cleaner look for the action figure. Like for me, you know, my personal preference is I'd rather have a cleaner figure and sacrifice the articulation. You know, I'm not really into action figure photography or like getting my figures in like crazy poses. But then again, I'm kind of a product of the 80s and 90s. You know, during the 90s, we got a lot of action figures that were more so like little statues. And that's kind of like my mindset. You know, I kind of like that a lot more than having a figure that's super articulated. And if you want to get him in the trademark archer pose, so this is what's going to bother you, and it's bothering me now that I'm thinking about it. It would have been nice if they packaged this figure with a solo arrow, unless I didn't see it in the box. It's unfortunate that you can't actually give him an arrow and then have him mount it onto his you know, person, so he looks like he's actually going to shoot. So you might have to dig into your parts bin and see if you have like a Marvel Legends figure that has an arrow, because I don't think this guy comes with a single loose arrow. So you might have to substitute it if you can't find one. You know, maybe make one out of a toothpick or something. But yeah, overall, it's an excellent figure. For me, if I had to rate this figure on a scale of 1 to 10, and this goes for both figures, both for this, the Page Punchers, and also the Multiverse release. For me, visually, I think both figures is an easy 10 on a visual scale. I think they really capture the essence of Oliver Queen as he appears in Injustice 2. You know, for Injustice 2, the design aesthetic is a lot different than the comic book. If you've played like some of the video games like Injustice 1, Injustice 2, if you played DC vs. Mortal Kombat, or even the Rocksteady Arkham games, you know, the superheroes there, they're kind of outfitted in like body armor more so than like spandex. And I think that really captures and epitomizes that look perfectly. So visually, for me, these figures are perfect. The shortcoming is going to come down to the articulation. You know, if you're really going to miss the swivel underneath the breast line and the ab crunch, you know, that might bother you. So, I mean, overall, I'd probably rate the figure, you know, anywhere between an 8 and a 9. It all depends on your personal preference when it comes to the articulation. All right, with that being said, let's wrap this one up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So, until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. All right, later.